Bottom line viewers, it's Mitch back here for another week of NFL picks. Week number 13 of the 2019 NFL season. Back here to pick games straight up and, of course, versus the spread for week number 13. Last week, pretty good on both facets. Straight up versus the spread, above 500 for both. It was a relatively easy week for picking games, I would say, for most people. Let me know in the comments how you guys did do this week. This was my record. So, currently, 111, 63, and 1 straight up this season, 95 and 81 versus the spread. I went 9-5 versus the spread this week, so I'm happy about that, and I went 10-4 straight up, so only a game above in terms of my straight up picks than my picks versus the spread in week number 12. Hoping to continue that spread picks and spread record going into week number 13. That's really the one that I'm most proud of and most looking to nail the biggest, because if you guys are following any of my advice or my picks whatsoever, and you are trying to cash in on those picks, it's good for me to give you the right advice and not the wrong advice. So hopefully the advice that I am giving for any of you guys, taking it into consideration, it is helping you pick these games. I'm not necessarily all about the record, but when it comes to the advice and what is coming out of my mouth, I want to be accurate and I want to give you the best information to help you pick these games. So, week number 13. I think week number 13 is absolutely fascinating this week. I think it has a number of games that I could see being just incredible football games this week. I could see a number of games going down as game of the year caliber type of matchups, whether it's on Thanksgiving between Buffalo and Dallas. I think that game stands out. Tomorrow, on Sunday, we have a number of under-the-radar matchups as well as big top-tier billing type of games. Of course, everyone's going to be talking about Baltimore and San Francisco, which I'm going to get in-depth on. Also, Tennessee, Indianapolis. That's a big game in the AFC South. The New England Patriots versus the Texans on Sunday Night Football. I think there's a good game in Cleveland and Pittsburgh in the AFC North. Oakland and Kansas City in the AFC West. And then on Monday night, we have Seattle and Minnesota. So there's a lot of good games this week in week 13, and those spots for the playoffs are starting to fill up. I think there's a couple of teams, whether it's the Patriots or it's the Saints. There's a couple of teams in the NFL right now that are looking to secure their playoff spots this week in week 13. So before I dive into my picks for week 13, of course, make sure that you do spike the like button and subscribe to the Bottom Line View for more NFL videos and weekly picks. And comment your opinion. I want to hear from you guys, whether it is right now here live or after the fact. What do you guys think this week? Who are you picking? What's your bet of the week? What game do you think is the lock and loaded? You're going to make cash on that, baby. Let me know in the comment section below. All right, so let's start off this week with the Thanksgiving matchups. The Chicago Bears take on the Detroit Lions in probably the snoozer of the day on Thanksgiving, and I'm not sure how many people are actually going to be paying attention to this game. It's probably going to be that game on Thanksgiving where everybody is having it in the background. It's on your TV, but you're not necessarily watching the entire game with a keen eye, so to speak. Chicago is minus 4.5 in this game. Detroit is at home, though, and Detroit, of course, has the experience playing on Thanksgiving. They are one of the teams that always hosts a Thanksgiving game, them and Dallas, and it almost does seem like New Orleans is also falling into that category, although that's not actually the case. So when looking at this matchup, to me, the first thing that stood out was this is one of the worst offenses in football in Chicago versus one of the worst defenses in Detroit. So that's the big matchup there. Which inept unit can play a better game in this one. I don't think either of these teams, definitely not the Lions, but the Bears technically, mathematically, are still in the race to make the playoffs in terms of they're in the conversation for a wild card spot, but they are a lot worse. I will say this much. They are much worse than their record indicates. They have played a lot of bad teams over the course of their schedule. They've gotten very lucky with their matchups, and even some of the teams that they have been playing have had key injuries, just like the first time they played Detroit when Matt Stafford didn't play. Well, guess what? Matt Stafford is not playing in this game either, and it also looks like Driscoll, their backup quarterback, won't be playing either, so David Blough will be the starting quarterback for the Detroit Lions, at least most likely tomorrow on Thanksgiving. David Blough, all right? Looking at some of the other injuries in this game, Rashaan Melvin, the corner for the Lions, is out. He is one of the top 3 corners on the team, so could have a little bit of an effect if you guys are looking to start like an Anthony Miller in fantasy football. I believe Justin Coleman and also, what's his name? Can't figure it out right now. The big-time corner, Darius Slay for the Lions. They are both in, but Melvin is out. Then looking at the Bears side, Massey, right tackle, starting right tackle, is out. Gabriel is out as well. And Trevathan, one of probably their best linebacker, is out of this game. So 3 key players for Chicago, and obviously Matt Stafford being the big one for Detroit, but also a key defensive secondary player in Rashaan Melvin. Now, Chicago won the first matchup 20-13. In that game, Trubisky actually had one of his best games of the season, at least statistically, throwing for 3 touchdowns. They took a while to really break out, and really Detroit, if they had Stafford in that game, I have no doubt about it that they would have won that game. Chicago is 27th in DVOA offensively. They are 6th defensively. Detroit is 24th defensively. So it's the 27th offense versus the 24th defense. 30th passing offense of Chicago versus the 30th passing defense of Detroit. So who is going to get the advantage? And to me, when I look at the matchups, it's probably going to be Slay versus Allen Robinson, and it's going to be Coleman versus Anthony Miller. I think those are 2 pretty interesting matchups. Just to me, Detroit has played far too much man-to-man coverage this year. I don't really think that they have the linebackers and necessarily the safeties to play as much man coverage as they do. I actually don't think their corners are really the issue. I think it's the linebacking play. I think it's the safety play and just the predictability of their defense. Also, you throw into the fact that they do not have a very good pass rush. It's one of the worst in football, and they're not very good at getting a rush. They're actually 28th in adjusted sack rate, so Trubisky should have some time in this game to throw and find his receivers and make his decisions. The problem with Trubisky is, one, when he's under pressure, which he has been a lot this season, he's not very good at decision making because, I don't know, he has a slow processing system in his mind. But when he doesn't see that first read open, he is not able to go through his progressions, and that's when he gets sacked, he gets pressured, and he makes a mistake. When he is able to have time, Trubisky, like any other quarterback, is a lot better and doesn't make as many mistakes, which will be big in this game. Chicago is 12th versus the run, so being that David Blough is going to be the quarterback for Detroit, I wouldn't count much on their passing game having success. I would also probably sit Marvin Jones and Kenny Golladay versus one of the top 5 passing defense is in football. When you're looking at a guy like Scarborough, I'd probably sit him as well. Chicago 12th versus the run, but this is just in terms of the game itself. Picking this game, it doesn't have me saying, okay, even with a 3rd string quarterback, maybe Detroit can manufacture some offense. But with Chicago actually being in the top half of run defense, it doesn't really look good for Detroit in terms of scoring points. I just don't see many situations, matchups, or ways that Detroit is going to be able to get offense in this game and score points and manufacture drives. So at the end of the day, even if the Bears' offense stinks, I think Montgomery could have a fairly good game, which allows Trubisky to work off of that run game and hit some big plays down the field occasionally, and I think he'll just have to do enough. I think that the Bears will win a defensive football game. I'm going to say something like 20-7, 20-10, something of that nature. I think Chicago wins this game in Detroit on Thanksgiving, and I think they do cover the game. My second game for Thanksgiving is one of the more interesting matchups of this entire Week 13. It's the Buffalo Bills heading to Dallas to play the Dallas Cowboys. Now, 7 points for a team that is 2 games less or 2 games worse in terms of their record than the Buffalo Bills. The Bills are 8-3, and they're a touchdown underdog in Dallas. Dallas is 6-5, I believe, and yes, they're the leader in the NFC East, but 6-5. They just coming off a Patriots loss in New England. Tough game for them, tough matchup for them. This week they're looking to bounce back. Buffalo, they beat Denver. Not overly impressive, but they did get the victory. And that's kind of been the story of Buffalo's season. They rely a lot on their good defense. Josh Allen makes just enough plays. Given the weapons around him, you can't really ask for much more. And they're able to win football games with good coaching, good situational offense, and good defense. And Dallas, I think they are the more talented team in this game. And like many games that they play, they have more talented players, but it really comes down to their coaching. And that's been a big issue with Dallas, not only last week, but really since Jason Garrett has taken over as their coach. I mean, over the past 3 or 4 seasons or so, I would say more than any, Dallas has had one of the more talented teams in football, but just because of the coaching, they have not been as prepared as other football teams. And I would say that McDermott is a better coach than Jason Garrett, so there is a key advantage there for Buffalo. When looking at this matchup, Dallas is 6th overall in DVOA overall as a football team, offense, defense, special teams taken into perspective. Buffalo is 14th, so from a DVOA standpoint, Buffalo is overrated, while Dallas is underrated. Buffalo's pace of play offensively, I think, has drastically improved their offense. And it's actually been nice to see. I mean, Brian Daboll, he's gone into the press box. He's no longer on the sidelines. And he's been able to call plays better for Josh Allen. For some reason, that's just been clicking better. And Buffalo's pace of play has increased because of it. Buffalo ran plays at 25 seconds per snap last week, according to Warren Sharp, and 24.8 this past week. The NFL average is actually 29. So Buffalo is running the pace of play, or a snap per 25 seconds, which is probably the highest or in the top 5 in the NFL right now. So Buffalo is increasing their time that they get, or they're lessening the time that they get to snap the ball, which is increasing the number of snaps they have offensively, and it's putting pressure on defenses as well. The interesting part about this game from a Buffalo offense versus a Dallas defense perspective is that Buffalo has gone very heavy with 11 personnel. 11 personnel is 3 receivers, 1 tight end, and 1 running back. They played 97% of their snaps over the past 2 weeks in that personnel, which you guys would famously know this personnel is the Sean McVay personnel, 11 personnel. Dallas is one of the worst teams at defending this personnel set, and actually Dallas is the worst of any personnel set in their defense. Like, their defense has the hardest, most difficult time stopping this type of personnel set. Dallas is given up 8 yards per pass and 5 yards per run when teams go to 11 personnel. Very interesting. And I think that Buffalo could have more success than people would like to believe if they continue to run this pace of play with this personnel set. And I actually think they have some favorable matchups. Like, I would say Cole Beasley, the revenge game is real. I could see Cole Beasley having a good game here. I also think Devin Singletary on the ground could have some success, as Dallas isn't a very good run defense. I mean, they didn't have a great game versus the Patriots and Sony Michel. And then this just overall, Dallas is 18th versus the run in DVOA. But when you flip it around, Dallas, their offense is playing Buffalo's defense, which I think is one of the more intriguing matchups of the entire week in the NFL. So you look at it, and it's the number 1 offense in the league, Dallas, from a yards perspective. The number 1 passing offense in the league, Dak Prescott and the Cowboys, taking on the number 3 passing defense and the number 3 total yards defense in the Buffalo Bills. This is a great matchup. Amari Cooper had a rough week last week in the monsoon, being covered by Stephon Gilmore. Wasn't a great matchup for him. He might be playing a little bit banged up, is expected to suit up, but will face Tre'Davious White. Another matchup that will be difficult for him. So where does Dak go with the football? I'd assume that Gallup and Cobb will see a majority of the targets. And I think that if Dallas wants to be successful in this game, they need to go power football and they need to run the ball more than usual. Last week, I think the reason why they lost that game to New England was not just that they lost their way in terms of running the football, but I don't think they committed to running the ball specifically in short yardage situations where New England was calling their bluff. And it just seems like Dallas has gotten away from what their foundation and what their identity has been with Ezekiel Elliott. Since Kellen Moore has taken over, don't get me wrong, he's made this offense better, and the passing game is drastically better, and Dak Prescott is a lot better. But their run game has been worse, and I think if they want to beat Buffalo, Buffalo is not a very good run defense. Last week, Denver had 5 yards per carry, and if you factor in the fact that they were playing not a very good quarterback, in windy conditions where it will be difficult to throw the ball, period, and Denver is a running offense, you would think that Buffalo would stack the box, which they did. But Denver actually had 5 yards per carry last week. Buffalo is 26th in run defensive DVOA, so they're the 6th or 7th worst run defense in the entire NFL on average or in efficiency. So if Dallas, they can just commit to the run game, I think that will go a long way to winning this game. One very underrated player in this game is John Brown. John Brown actually leads the AFC in receiving yards this year and will play one-on-one with Byron Jones most likely. That's going to be an interesting matchup. Dallas has yet to beat any good team this season. They have not beat a single team with a winning record, and Buffalo has only beaten one in Tennessee. So they're both in the same boat. Almost an identical team on both sides from a record and from a what are they type of perspective in the AFC and the NFC. Like I said, I think the coaching advantage goes to Buffalo. I think the talent advantage goes to Dallas. I think a lot of this comes down to how does Josh Allen play on Thanksgiving under the bright lights, and how does Dallas run the football. I think Dallas wins the game. I think Dallas has a lot of pressure on them to win this game, and I think they find a way with their backs against the wall to win this game at home. I think with Buffalo, they will make this game interesting, though, and I do not think Dallas will cover. I like the 7 points with Buffalo because I do think they have a chance to win this game, given that their defense is very good and one of the only secondaries that can handle the receivers that Dallas throw at them. So I think Dallas wins, and I'm fairly confident about that, but I do believe that Buffalo keeps this close, and I think if Josh Allen can make 1 or 2 amazing plays in this game, they could potentially pull off the upset. I just wouldn't count on it. So that's my big breakdown for the Bills and the Cowboys. One more game for Thanksgiving, and then I'll get to the comments. Keep those comments coming, guys. Let me know in the comment section below who you guys are picking. So the next game is the New Orleans Saints at the Atlanta Falcons. The New Orleans Saints are -7 on Thanksgiving in Atlanta. Now, the interesting thing about this game is that the Saints were absolutely annihilated the first time they played Atlanta, and Atlanta dominated them, honestly, every facet of the game, and New Orleans really wasn't competitive in that game, and it was only a couple of weeks ago. So how are the Saints going to turn around and get their revenge? It's a Saints revenge game. The Saints need to redeem themselves for the terrible performance they had at home versus their rival, and now they have a chance to do that on Thanksgiving football under the bright lights with everybody watching. Austin Hooper is out for Atlanta, but Freeman is back in, and Julio is questionable. Armstead and Pete are both out on the offensive line for New Orleans, which is massive, and Marshawn Lattimore is questionable. So Lattimore and Julio, both questionable. That's interesting. I think the Saints are a totally different team when they have Marshawn Lattimore, and the biggest reason, not only is he one of the better corners in the league, but also he gives and takes away the flexibility of their defense. When he's in, he allows them to play more man-to-man coverage. When he's out, they're forced to play more zone, which they're not really as great at. And you just can see that their defense isn't as good when he's not out there because it's a trickle-down effect with the rest of the matchups in their secondary. They do not have another guy at corner that can take on number one receivers the way that Lattimore can, and it just hurts the overall effectiveness of their defense and their pass defense specifically. Atlanta is 11th versus the run and 29th versus the pass in DVOA, so I believe that the more effective approach would be Drew Brees passing the ball in this game. And I actually think that Atlanta is one of the better defenses, as we saw in the first matchup, to try and take away Alvin Kamara, because they have very fast linebackers in Deion Jones and Campbell, who are good in coverage, good tacklers, aggressive, great sideline to sideline, and they just figured out a way the first time around at taking away the screens, at taking away the dump-offs, and I'm intrigued to see how Sean Payton adjusts and kind of screws with what the Atlanta tried to do to them the first time and how he adjusts to that. The last 3 games, Atlanta has been 4th in red zone defense, but they are still in the top 5 worst passing defenses in the league, even over their last 3 games where people have been saying they've been getting better. So they're still not much better in terms of defending the pass, if you guys wanted to know. I think this is a big game for Michael Thomas. I would suspect Jared Cook to have a nice game in this one. Atlanta is basically in the playing spoiler mode. Their season is over. They're not going to make the playoffs. The Saints, they need this win to hopefully get the number 1 seed, and also they need this win to at least get a bye and win this division. I believe if they win this game, they can actually secure the division, but I'm not exactly sure on that one. I have the Saints winning because I do not believe they'll lose to Atlanta twice in a season. I actually think they will cover, but I do think this game could be fairly high scoring for a while, and then New Orleans will pull away at the end. I have the game being something like 30-20 for New Orleans. New Orleans usually plays well on these Thanksgiving games and usually has been the winner of these games versus Atlanta in these Thanksgiving matchups. I also believe that Sean Payton will be a little PO'd, Drew Brees will be a little PO'd, and these guys will just play a little bit harder this time around versus Atlanta. So I think New Orleans will come out with the victory. Not much in terms of an X's and O's, because I think Atlanta actually matches up fairly well. The funny thing is, though, is that Atlanta, from a numbers perspective, does not match up well. But for whatever reason, when they play on the field, it's totally different. Like, Atlanta only has 18 sacks. They're second last in adjusted sack percentage. But for some reason, they were able to get after Drew Brees and sack him and get pressure. And if New Orleans isn't able to protect Drew Brees in this game, especially in Atlanta, in that dome, where it's more difficult than in New Orleans, then definitely Atlanta can pull off the upset. But I just think with the motivations of both teams and with New Orleans being the team that needs the revenge, I think New Orleans comes up with the victory. All right. So let's get to the chat for the first time tonight. What's going on, guys? Let's get to Trivia, who says, I'll be on soon. Go Colts, by the way. Sebastian says, hi, Mitch. It's been a while. What's up, Sebastian? Kyron says, hey, Mitch, what's going on, Kyron? Deshaun says, Bears win the Thanksgiving opener, 27-21. I'd be shocked if the Lions scored 21 points, honestly. Sebastian says, Bears 17-14. Kyron says, bold predictions for the week. Raiders beat the Chiefs at home, and Jameis Winston has an interception-free game. Interesting. Jacob says, Saints are not losing to the Falcons again. Deshaun says, Dallas bounced back with Buffalo 27-14. Tristan has the Bears 32-29. Sammy has the Bears 23-12. Sebastian says, upset of the week. Bills win over Cowboys. Final score 28-17. Wow, 11-point victory. That would be devastating if you're a Cowboy fan. Deshaun says 33-27. Ravens beat San Francisco. He has the Bears winning. Brett has the Niners have all their starters playing Sunday. Interesting. One Pride says, I'll take my Lions. The Fiend says Lions 24-14. Kyron says, my picks against the spread are Chicago, Dallas, New Orleans, Tennessee, Cincinnati, Washington, San Fran, Tampa Bay, Pittsburgh, the Giants, Miami, Arizona, Chargers, Oakland, Houston, Minnesota. Free Flow says Ravens are going to San Francisco. No, San Fran is on the road. Ravens are at home. Dallas wins by 14. Bills win. Cowboys win. All right, interesting. Jay says Buffalo has more talent on defense. You could argue that. I think, though, if you go position by position, I think Dallas would probably win the talent debate. Drew Brees will throw 4 or 7. I don't know how you go 4 or 7 touchdowns. I don't know how you get from 4 to 7, but very interesting. Stream started not too long ago. I've just only covered the Thanksgiving games. All right, let's get to the Sunday action. Where am I here? Is this the Sunday game? Washington, Carolina. Yeah, that's the first Sunday game I want to cover. So, Carolina is -10. Carolina is at home. They are playing the worst offense in football and one of the worst offenses in the last decade. Washington, when you look at their offense, is 32nd in yards per game, 32nd in passing, 32nd in points, and 32nd on third down. That is dead last in case you didn't know. Washington ranks 28th versus the run on defense, and they're playing Christian McCaffrey. Not exactly a great matchup. The Skins are also 32nd on third down defensively. So they're 32nd on defense and offense. Norv Turner is good at game planning. He's good at getting easy first downs for his quarterback and manufacturing drives and screens and short passes. And Christian McCaffrey is a big reason for that. The only thing that scares me for Carolina in this game is the fact that Carolina is the second worst team in terms of DVOA on run defense. So I could see Darius Geis having a big game in this one, and I would consider starting him in fantasy just for you fantasy players that own him. The Panthers, they usually feast on young quarterbacks. This is usually the game where Luke Kuechly has a big pick six, or they make plays and they sack the quarterback and they strip fumbles. And, Panthers have one of the best pass rushes in the league. Haskins should be under pressure, be forcing to make mistakes. And I just see the Panthers really winning this game quite easily because of the reasons I stated. Washington has a terrible offense. Haskins is a young quarterback who's inexperienced, playing a good pass rush and a pretty smart middle linebacker. And their offense has a huge advantage on third down. Their offense has a huge advantage in the run game, and Christian McCaffrey should have a massive game. So, really, the games that the Panthers don't win, the games that the Panthers lose, are the games where Kyle Allen will be out of his comfort zone. And that is not one of these games. The Panthers have the motivation. The Panthers are the more talented team. The Panthers have the better coaching, and the Panthers have the home field. I'm taking Carolina to win, and I'm taking Carolina to also cover. Jets at Cincinnati. The Jets are -3.5 points. The line to me seems a little bit too small. I think the Jets are kind of underrated, honestly, and they've been a lot better, if you've noticed, since Sam Darnold has come back. Their record with Sam Darnold is massively better than without Sam Darnold. Andy Dalton is back at quarterback for Cincinnati, so perhaps that will help them. I don't know how much, but it will help them a little bit. Sam Darnold has played way better recently, and a lot of that has to do with the matchups. I mean, a lot of the games where he struggled, he played teams like New England, he played teams like Buffalo. He played some of the better pass defenses in the NFL. And of course, you're going to struggle. Now, his celebration for his victory versus Oakland might have gone a little bit too far, making out with random chicks and hooking up with random chicks in the club. When you're an NFL player and you're supposed to stay out of the public eye and you're supposed to be prepared for your upcoming week, I understand he's still a young dude. I believe he's my age, so I understand it. But you don't see Russell Wilson or Lamar Jackson even doing that. So, I mean, come on, Sam Darnold. I know your team isn't going to make the playoffs, but relax on the big win. All right, bro? Also, the Jets' defense, I think, is a little bit better than people think. Darnold, also, forgot to mention, he now plays the defense that is worst in the NFL in terms of allowing yardage. So he has another great matchup for himself, and fantasy owners that have him should be happy because he should have another good game. And this also should be another good game for Le'Veon Bell. Cincinnati has the worst run defense in the NFL, allowing the most yards per game and having the worst run defense according to DVOA. The Jets, on the other hand, are an underrated defense, as I stated, because they're great versus the run, and that is the biggest reason they beat Oakland. Don't get it twisted, the Jets are the number one run defense. And they're playing an offensive line in Cincinnati that's one of the worst in the league. They allow a league-high 25% stuff percentage. That means the amount of plays that are 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2, or on the goal line are the most stuffed in the league because the offensive line is not very good at getting a push. So you combine the number one run defense versus the worst offensive line in blocking for the run game, and I would say that the Jets have a massive advantage on that side of the ball as well. Cincinnati is 23rd in sack percentage and only have 16 sacks. So Sam Darnold, even though the Jets are terrible at pass blocking, should be able to find time versus a team that only has 16 sacks, second to last in the NFL. Now, if Andy Dalton has time of his own, he could make this game interesting because, like I've said in the past, the Jets secondary isn't the greatest. But what they do well is that Greg Williams is creative in finding stunts and pressure packages and creative ways of getting after the quarterback. So I think that all of this adding up, I could see a game end a way that Cincinnati keeps it close, but I think that the Jets are the much better team, and I think that some of the areas where they can take advantage of, like the run game, Jamison Crowder in the pass game, a big play to Robbie Anderson, defensively and run defense where Cincinnati will have to be one-dimensional. That will keep them in 3rd and longs. That will allow Greg Williams to send pressure. I think the Jets easily win this game, and I think they win by double digits. Okay. Next, Tennessee at Indianapolis. Indianapolis is -2.5. This is a huge game in the AFC, and this is perhaps the most slept-on game of the week. Both teams are 6-5. Both teams are competing for the AFC South crown, and both teams are competing for playoff spots, whether that's wild card or winning the division. When looking at some of the injuries, Malcolm Butler has been on IR for the past couple of weeks, but that's a big injury to note for the secondary of Tennessee, and I think he's usually the one that covers T.Y. Hilton. Adoree Jackson is questionable. I think a lot of my pick has to do with if he plays or not, because when you play the Colts, you need a corner that can cover T.Y. Hilton most of the time, or at least you need to find a creative way that you can take him away, especially now, because the Colts are supremely lacking weapons. Ebron was put on IR. All they have now is Doyle. Funchess is on IR. Campbell is questionable. They don't really have any receivers of note. Marlon Mack is out. So they're missing they have T.Y. Hilton, but outside of that, they have nothing else to go to in the passing game that's really consistent or really a big-time threat. The last matchup was week 2. A long time ago, Marcus Mariota started at quarterback for Tennessee. Indy won 19-17 in a close game in Tennessee. Both teams struggled to pass the ball in that game, both failing to throw for over 155 yards. So terrible games. Brissett did throw for 3 touchdowns, I believe, so he threw for the touchdowns, but not the yards. They both ran fairly well in that game, which is surprising according to the yardage. The Colts also had 2 turnovers, which allowed Tennessee to be in the game. Mack had 20 carries for 51 yards, though. That's not very efficient. Wilkins was the one who was effective. He had a 55-yard run in that game and allowed the Colts to have better rushing statistics than you really would have thought. Now, when looking at Derrick Henry, he takes it to another level at this time of the year. He's much better in November and December because defenses are worn out. They're not trying to tackle Derrick Henry. He averaged 5.5 yards per carry on 15 carries in the first game versus Indianapolis, so he had a lot of success. In his last 16 games, Derrick Henry has 305 carries for 1,600 yards and 18 touchdowns. I think that's number 1 in most of those categories. Indianapolis attempted to play more man coverage versus Houston for whatever reason, and whenever they did, they were torched by Will Fuller and DeAndre Hopkins. I don't expect that to be the case this week, and I don't expect them to be torched by the receivers of Tennessee. But Tannehill has been a lot better passer than Marcus Mariota, and there's a much bigger threat in that area of the game than what Mariota gave them in that first matchup. Tannehill is 10 touchdowns, only 4 interceptions, 72% completion percentage, a 111 passer rating, and he's 4-1 as a starter for Tennessee. So this team is a lot better with Ryan Tannehill. And the game is on the road, I understand that, but maybe I'm sour at Frank Reich because I don't like the way he coached last game versus Houston. Colts are seriously lacking the weapons, and that's what scares me the most. Tennessee is playing better football. Tennessee, I believe, has the better run D. Tennessee, I believe, offensively is running the ball better. And I believe that Tennessee is just playing better, period. I am going to take the Titans for the upset. I'm going to say that the Titans go to Indianapolis and win this game. I have not been very accurate with my AFC South predictions. I did predict Tennessee to blow out Jacksonville, which did happen. Hopefully, I am beginning to become right with Tennessee. The thing with the Titans of the past was it was hard to count on Marcus Mariota, which made them very inconsistent. If they can continue to get consistency out of Tannehill, this team is better than people think, and this team should be able to beat Indianapolis, a team that is very injured in the weapons department, a team that's defense is nothing special, and I think the coaching edge doesn't go either way. I think it's fairly even, and both of these teams play each other very well. So I think Tennessee wins this game. All right. Next, we have the big game of the week. But before we get to the big game of the week, which is the San Francisco 49ers. I have the Rams here. I need to change that. What happened to that? Do I have the 49ers here? I'm actually going to make that real quick. As I answer your questions. San Francisco and Baltimore. I guess my thing didn't go through. That's interesting. Of course, I screw up the big game of the week. I hope you guys all, I'm going to go through the process right now. I hope you guys all watched my Who is Better video, the 49ers or the Ravens. If you haven't already, go check out that video. I spend a lot of time breaking down all the teams, the statistics that matter, the matchups. It gets a good look at the talent on the teams if you guys are curious, and kind of just the independent overall position by position breakdown. That's what I do in those videos. Let me know also in the comments section, guys, what are you guys eating on Thanksgiving? What's your favorite thing? Is it the turkey? Are you guys potato guys? Maybe you like the stuffing. What's your Thanksgiving thing? I'm Canadian, so I have never actually had the privilege of being a part of the American Thanksgiving tradition, and I just feel like it's probably the most awesome thing there is. I've never been a part of it, as I'm trying to figure out where my logos are here. But yeah, guys, if you haven't already, make sure that you do subscribe if you're watching this for the first time. Like the video if you haven't already, and make sure that you guys are commenting. I'm really going to be ramping up the content very soon in terms of this channel. I've been a little angry at myself in terms of not being able to put out the amount of content that I've wanted to put out because of school. So when I'm off of school for Christmas break, I'm going to be ramping up the content. So you want to make sure that you're here. Hit that notification bell so that you can get the latest on the channel. All right, there it is, San Francisco at Baltimore. Now we can break down this game. I'm going to skip the comments for now, and then I'm going to get back to them because I had to do that whole thing. So, San Francisco at Baltimore. Baltimore is -6 points. Baltimore is the number 1 team according to DVOA. They are first offensively. They are 4th defensively. San Francisco is 3rd according to DVOA. They are 2nd defensively. They are 11th offensively. Interesting that they're only 11th. This is arguably the best team in the AFC versus arguably the best team in the NFC and this is arguably a Super Bowl preview. I want to put arguably in there because I don't want to offend Patriot fans, Seahawks fans, Saints fans. That's pretty much it. But just so that I don't offend anybody, arguably, it's a Super Bowl preview. So, and many people have these two as their number 1 and number 2 in their power rankings, as do I. Both of these teams are coming off of blowout victories. Baltimore on Monday night, San Francisco on Sunday night. If it matters, San Francisco has 1 day more of rest, technically, but they do have to travel from the west to the east to play this game in Baltimore. So that's something. It used to be a bigger thing back in the day, but it isn't so much anymore because of travel routines, because of trainers and all that sort of stuff. It used to be a big deal. It's not as much anymore. Baltimore, they had a big-time injury. Matt Skura, their starting center, is now being placed on IR, and they are having a center from what I believe has not played center since high school. I think he's actually a guard, and they're suiting him up at center. I could be wrong there, but that's what I heard. So that's interesting, and I wonder how that will affect the best rushing attack in the NFL, if that has any effect on it. Skura was playing well. I believe he was ranked 12th by PFF at the center position before being injured. Both teams have the most success running the ball, and I believe that's also where they'll have the most success in this game. When taking a look at the DVOA of both run defenses, the Niners are only 16th, so they're right in the middle of the league in terms of run defensive DVOA. The Ravens are 24th in run defensive DVOA. Interesting, because you would think that the Ravens, with their big bodies up front, are better versus the run than 24th. But actually, from an efficiency standpoint, they aren't the greatest. Because the Ravens, the thing about them is they get out to a lead, they suffocate you offensively, and they make you pass the ball. Same with the Niners. They both do it. So I kind of feel like both of these teams, in order to win, whoever gets a lead in the first half is going to win the game, in my opinion. Whoever comes up with a lead, if they get a 2-score lead, if they get 7 points, I don't think there will be a comeback in this game, is what I'm trying to say. Because the Ravens, the strength of their defense is their secondary. The strength of the 49ers defense is their pass rush. So when you get behind these teams, you put them in what they want to be in, their favorite zone of just getting after the quarterback or playing pass defense in general. San Francisco, it's interesting to note that their most success offensively in the games that they have blown teams out has been in games where they've played weak run defenses. And if they're able to establish that run early on and be effective and efficient with it, they have a chance to win this game versus Baltimore in Baltimore. They have blown out a team like Carolina, who's a pretty good team, but bad against the run. They blew out Green Bay, a good team, but bad versus the run. So, those are two teams that, just like Baltimore, not great defending the run, but good teams. Interesting. On the flip side, the 49ers are, or I guess seemingly not as good versus mobile quarterbacks. It could be said that they struggle versus them, but I wouldn't quite say struggle is the word. I would just say that mobile quarterbacks have given them more issues than pocket quarterbacks. I think that's fair to say because Wilson and Kyler, the two guys that they've played primarily, who people want to talk about, are guys that are unpredictable in the pocket. They have easy mobility to the outside. And the reason why this is more difficult for San Francisco is because of the defense that they play. When you're pass rushing, it's easier to just get to a spot where the pocket guy is and attack him. But when you're dealing with the mobile guy, he could be anywhere in the pocket, sliding up, down, left, right, to the side, running out of the pocket, and it's more difficult to get after him, which is what San Francisco does best. The Niners pass rush, it's interesting to note that, of course, they're the most dominant pass rush in the NFL. They're number one in sack rate. I believe they're number one in sacks. And will it be negated by the Ravens' run defense? I think San Francisco needs to not only stop the run early, but they need to dedicate themselves to containing that run game early in the game, because if they don't, that's going to significantly hinder their ability to rush the passer. Because when you put Lamar Jackson in even third and mediums, it makes it that much more difficult to defend the Ravens, because then they can do a lot of different option plays. They can do a lot of different RPOs. They can do a lot of different short passing plays, and it's just going to be impossible for guys like Nick Bosa, D Ford, DeForest Buckner to tee off on the quarterback. But if they are able to, on first and second down, contain that rushing attack and make it a third down situation where Lamar Jackson is having to throw down the field, that's exactly where San Francisco wants to be, because that is when they can make big plays defensively. So that's the interesting thing. Will Baltimore's ability to wear down San Francisco up front be the difference in the game, or will San Francisco be able to contain Baltimore and ultimately force them in bad situations? Now, an interesting thing about this game, I think, is that the Niners are going to be playing a wide 9 defense. That's how they play. That's their defensive scheme. They play a wide 9 defense, which is where the defensive ends in a traditional 4-3, they're more aligned with the tackles. While in a wide 9 defense, they're outside of the tackles. So it's taking the outside run away, basically, but it's easier to pass rush. And that's why San Francisco has been deadly rushing from the edge, because this wide 9 defense is better for those type of quick off-the-ball type of players. But it is susceptible to running up the middle, and it's also susceptible at times to just the running game because it leaves those big gaps. So it's interesting, without the center of Baltimore, if they're able to run the ball up the middle the same way, and that would be Mark Ingram territory. I think San Francisco, by playing that wide 9, it might actually help them containing the option of Lamar Jackson, but it might hurt them in containing Mark Ingram up the middle. So that's something to look out for. The defenses that the Ravens have been tearing apart have mostly been 3-4 type of defenses. New England attempted to play a 3-4 defense versus the Ravens, and it did not work. The Rams play a 3-4 defense. That did not work. And the Texans play a 3-4 defense. All of these defenses were shredded by Lamar Jackson and that type of team. But, a team like Seattle, they lost the game, but it wasn't as bad. Some of these other teams that have beaten Lamar Jackson or have been closer, and also you look at a team like San Diego, or I guess I should say LA Chargers from a season ago, they were a lot better because they were a 4-3 defense. So it's interesting to note that maybe this 4-3 wide 9 style has more success than a 3-4 style. Everyone, including myself, is still trying to figure out what has success versus Lamar and what does not. And I think that's just we're gonna see again, does this style have better success, or is San Francisco gonna change what they play? It's an interesting note. Precipitation in this game is 90% likely, so that means that it's probably gonna rain in this game, at least lightly, if not heavy in this game. That would, in my opinion, lean to Baltimore, because they can just do more in the run game than San Francisco can, although San Francisco has a good rush attack. So, ultimately, who am I picking? Enough of this BS, what I'm talking about. Who am I picking? I am picking Baltimore to win, but 6 points is too many in this game to me. I think San Francisco, I think they'll keep this game close, and I wouldn't be shocked if they win the game. As I said in my Who is Better video, which you should check out, I do think San Francisco is slightly more talented than Baltimore. But Baltimore is such a different team to approach and to game plan for in the first time you play them, that it makes them so hard to defend, and it makes them so hard to play against. When you look at Kyle Shanahan, though, he is in the same vein of, what is Shanahan going to throw at this Baltimore defense? So I could see this game being high scoring. I could see this game hitting the over. I think both of these defenses will have a little bit of trouble defending their opposing offenses, and I think this game is going to be one of the games of the year. I am going to go with Baltimore because they're at home and because of the chance of rain, and because I just think they're playing slightly better right now. While San Francisco, if this was in San Fran, I might consider to go with San Fran. The tough thing with Baltimore is I can't really know how a team is going to defend them or attack them on the first time, on the first go. And I think Baltimore is just that good right now and on such a tear and playing with so much momentum and so much confidence that I can't pick San Francisco. So I'm sorry, Niners fans. For now, if I'm being honest, I'm a Patriots fan, so I will be cheering for the 49ers because I want the Patriots to get home field. Nothing against Ravens fans. I like the Ravens. I'm just saying I'll be cheering for San Fran. But I am going to go with Baltimore to win and San Francisco to cover. I do think it will be within 6. I'm going to say, for the sake of a score, I will say it being 30-27 for Baltimore. How about that? All right. Next. What's next? I did those games. This game. Yeah. Tampa Bay at Jacksonville. Tampa Bay is not favored. Jacksonville was actually favored coming into this game, I believe by 3, and then it went all the way down to 1 already. Jacksonville is still favored by 1. I'm going to be picking in this game Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay, I just think, is the better team. And when I look at what Jacksonville wants to do offensively, they want to run the ball with Leonard Fournette. I don't think that's going to happen versus Tampa Bay, who was the second best run defense in all of football. They are weak versus the pass, though. So if Nick Foles is able to execute and pass down the field, I think he will. I think he can have success like that. And I think guys like Westbrook and guys like Chark should have decent games here. But I think on the flip side, now Tampa Bay does not have a great rushing attack to take advantage of Jacksonville's poor run defense, but they have the receivers to take advantage of the secondary of Jacksonville, and I think they will be able to move the ball on Jacksonville. I just think Tampa Bay is the better team. I think Tampa Bay is playing the better football, and I think Jacksonville, even though they're at home here, I just don't trust them. I think Jacksonville has been very overrated over the past 4 to 6 games this season. Like, they've lost a number of games where they've been blown out and it's not been competitive. So maybe this is a trap game from Vegas, but I just think Tampa Bay is playing better football. I would say Jameis is playing better than Nick Foles. I would say they have the better weapons. I would say they match up well in terms of their run defense versus Leonard Fournette, and that's why I'm taking Tampa Bay. It's pure and simple there. So let's get to the comments because I want to hear what you guys had to say about the last game that I just picked. So let's go. Where are we at in the chat? All right. Deshaun asks, do you think Atlanta will be making the playoffs this year? No. Brett says Super Bowl 49ers versus Ravens rematch. Sammy has the Panthers winning 34-9. Steve has the Bears covering the spread. Panthers by 20 at least, says Robot Guy. Sebastian has the Bengals over the Jets. Interesting. Niner for life has the 49ers. Wizard of Oz says, hey Mitch, the wizard from Australia checking in live. Love your show. Thank you. I predict a rough day for Lamar this weekend with Bosa and Ford hunting him all day. And like I said in my preview, Wizard, if they are not able to contain the run, they will not able to get after the quarterback, so they need to stop that run game first. I will say, though, one thing I didn't mention is the 49ers have a lot of speed, so they can track them down in the open field. They should at least be able to. Trivia has the Colts 29-22 because they own the Titans. Trivia says that I'm totally wrong. He says that Darius Leonard is still a top 3 linebacker, and I don't disagree with that. James has the Colts 28-20. He says that the Colts have a top 10 defense, and I would very much disagree with that. I would say top 20, but not top 10. Greek Freak says, I have bad news for all of you Niner haters. We're going to win again 23-20 over the Ravens. Brett says, 49ers win 28-24. Hot Take Hockey says, is this Mitch Milani? Correct. It is Mitch Milani. Sebastian says Ravens 49-35. 49ers, Lamar Jackson for MVP. Hot Take Hockey says 20K in no time. The Ryerson Sports YouTube channels will be flying. What else we have here? Trivia says, arguably, the Colts are winning the Super Bowl. Sammy says, Brett Kirby, have you seen the last 5 games for the Ravens? Brett, answer him. Kevin Durkant's talking about fantasy again. Classic. Trivia says 2015 Broncos defense is greater than the 2019 49ers defense. Yeah, I mean, 25 Broncos defense is one of the 10 greatest ever. But the 49ers are actually in the conversation for being one of the greatest defenses, as well as the Patriots defense. It's kind of incredible that we have 2 of those type of defenses in one season. But yeah, it's true. Augustine Foster says, I finally got it. Cool, Canadian, cool, and stop it. Everybody likes you. I was too judgmental of you being a Patriots fan. And although I'm a Seahawks fan, I'm born and bred in Seattle anyway. I don't know what you're trying to say, Augustine, but thank you regardless. Bob says, I didn't know 130 yards passing is considered lighting it up. Steve says, Ravens and Niners are good teams. I'm hoping for a Niners-Patriots Super Bowl. If that happens, I get... Wow! Nice for you. Awesome Zone says, I'm sorry I came late to the stream, but I have the Ravens winning because they are at home, but Nick Bosa will go off. If Nick Bosa goes off, won't the 49ers win? Just saying. Bucks finishing 8-8, says Sammy. Sebastian has the Jags winning. Brett says, you're overlooking that the 49ers have been hurt with a lot of starters out for most of the season. They were all playing versus Green Bay too. I mean, I'm not overlooking that. I think Baltimore's mostly healthy too, so I'm not really overlooking it. It's real. I think the Ravens are the most difficult team to predict because I don't know how teams are going to defend them. I just don't know. Mesmerized Minka says, you said a 4-3 defense works versus Lamar. However, in week 5, the Steelers played a 3-4 and held Jackson to under 250. Yeah, that was probably one of the best teams that played versus Lamar, arguably the best. And they are a 3-4 defense, which I've thought of. But I do believe that the other teams that have played 3-4 have highly struggled because after that game, it seemed like that the Ravens have figured out how to take advantage of the 2-gapping system. Do the Bears make the playoffs? No. Sorry, David. All right. Let's get back to the picks. Where was I? I believe I'm on Eagles. What's this? Okay, I did that game. Next. Eagles at the Dolphins. I think this would be a massive disappointment for Philadelphia if they lost this game or if this game was even within like a touchdown. The Eagles are favored by 9. They need this game to have their playoff hopes stay alive. This could be a statement game for them. The problem with the Eagles is their offense, their explosiveness on offense is supremely lacking, and it's the number one reason why they are not winning games. It's the number one reason why their offense is not good. The Dolphins play hard. The Dolphins just are totally outmatched in this game. The Eagles' defense has been quietly very, very good, including versus the Patriots and the Seahawks. Now they are on the road this week, which they were at home for both of those games. But the Dolphins, they're fourth worst in pass protection. They don't have a lot of weapons on the outside. I feel like the Eagles' defense could dominate this game. And if Carson Wentz can just make a couple of plays, and if they are able to run the ball versus a Dolphins run defense that isn't very strong, the Eagles should cruise to a victory. So I will take the Eagles to win this game because they are in a win-now mode and because they totally outmatch physically the Dolphins. I just don't see how much coaching the Dolphins could possibly do to keep this game competitive. So even though the Eagles lack the explosiveness, I just think they'll bully their way to a victory in this one by at least 10 points over the Dolphins. Next, we have the Green Bay Packers at the New York Giants. I don't have any notes for this game because I think this game is very simply summed up. The Green Bay Packers were absolutely annihilated last week versus the 49ers. Thus, the Green Bay Packers will win by double digits over the Giants because Aaron Rodgers will be very angry, and this is, of course, an Aaron Rodgers bounce-back game versus a team that is under 500 versus a team that doesn't defend the pass very well. Aaron Rodgers should have one of his best games of the season. Defensively, I just don't think that the Giants have enough to make this game very competitive. I think Saquon could make one or two big plays versus a weak run defense in Green Bay, but really, I don't see it being 6.5 close. I think Green Bay wins this game fairly comfortably, and I just see it being a game where the Packers offense totally dominates time of possession, and it's far too late for Daniel Jones, Saquon, and company to make anything happen. So I'm going to go with the Packers dominating because they need this game because they understand that the Vikings are right on their heels. Next, Cleveland at Pittsburgh. The first game at the end of it was the storyline. This second game is only a couple weeks later, and it is an absolute bloodbath city. I think it's going to be a physical game. I think this game is one of the most underrated of the week because of that. I think this game is going to be physical. I think this game is going to be tough. And I think that the Browns will win. The Browns are playing better than the Steelers right now. I don't care if who's at quarterback for the Steelers. I said that Rudolph is worse than Hodges, and I am sticking by it. I think they made the right move here. I think the Browns are playing the better football. I think they're finally starting to turn it around. I think Baker Mayfield is finally starting to protect the ball. Odell and Landry are well involved. Their rushing attack is dangerous. And Pittsburgh is one of the worst teams running the football in the league. They really struggle to run the ball. And they are tied for the highest stuff percentage in the league with Cincinnati. Cleveland, the area of weakness is actually run D. They're pretty good versus the pass. So I think that they will be able to defend the Steelers for the most part. We saw that Rudolph could get nothing going. I don't think Juju will be playing in this game, and I don't think Connor will be playing in this game. The Steelers lack weapons. They don't have a great quarterback. Their defense is very good, but the Browns have a lot of weapons on offense, and it's really tough to match up with Odell and Landry for this secondary because they don't have a lot of great one-on-one guys. They're more about their pass rush up front, and if Baker Mayfield can supplement the ability to get time with a good balanced rushing attack and some screens to Kareem Hunt and Chubb, then they should be able to effectively win this game. And I was really impressed with their performance versus the Dolphins. So I'm going to go with the Browns. They may sweep the Steelers this year. That would be incredible. And I think they would actually be 500. I think they would be 6-6. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the Browns have a chance for a wild card if they win this game. Yeah, okay, that was the last game. Next, Rams at Cardinals. Rams are -3. I just have this feeling. No analysis involved. I have this feeling the Cardinals are going to win. I don't know why. I think part of it is because the Rams were destroyed by the Ravens. But I think that the Ravens took the heart and the soul and they ripped it out of the body of the Rams. It is crazy how much the Rams have fallen from one season, and Sean McVay's reputation has fallen. Their offensive line is not very good. They're not able to consistently run or get big-time passing plays. Jared Goff is not playing well. And the Cardinals' defense is not good. But I think it's Kyler Murray. I think it's their offense that is going to keep the Rams on their toes. And I understand the Rams' defense. It was playing the Ravens, and they've been good outside of that. But they've also been feasting on some pretty bad teams. So I think the Cardinals are going to win at home. I think Kyler Murray is going to have his signature performance of the season, and I think they're going to pull off the upset here. Why not? I'm going to go Cardinals. Next, Oakland Raiders at Kansas City Chiefs. This is perhaps the most slept-on game of the week, and you're saying, hey, Mitch, slept-on game, the Chiefs are favored by 10, Mitch. Who are you? Well, this is a huge game in the AFC West because the Chiefs are 7-4. The Raiders, I don't know if you knew, they're 6-5. Okay, Kansas City won the first game. If they tie it up, 7-5, 7-5, Oakland doesn't play New England, Kansas City plays in New England. Just saying, could Kansas City be a wild card team and Oakland win the division? It's entirely possible if Oakland gets this upset. The Raiders were embarrassed last week versus the Jets. But I think two things come into factor here. One, what do the Raiders do very well offensively? The Raiders run the ball. Two, what do the Jets do really well defensively? I want you to tell me in the chat. What do they do very well defensively? The Jets. What do the Raiders do very well offensively? One, run the ball. What do the Jets do very well defensively? The answer to that question is that the Jets stop the run better than anyone in the NFL. If I had to look up the stats right now, I believe that the Jets, let me look this up. Run defense NFL 2019. Okay, they're first in DVOA. I know that for a fact. They allow 78.1 yards per game. They have allowed 48 yards over their last three. That is 40 yards better than anybody else. The Jets have the best run defense in the league, and I talked about that earlier. The Raiders without a rushing attack suck. I'm sorry. If the Raiders are not able to run the ball, they cannot play what they want to do. They cannot do what they want to be. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? You know how I'm speaking English right now? So, let's check it for the Chiefs. What do the Chiefs do very poorly on defense? What do the Chiefs struggle with on defense? The Chiefs are 30th defending the run. 143 yards per game. So, the Raiders should be able to run the ball in this game, which means that the Raiders should keep this game within 10 points. The problem I have here is that Andy Reid is a master wizard. You're a wizard, Harry, when you're given a bye week. I mean, Andy Reid is incredible after a bye. So that scares me a little bit. But this is strength versus weakness for both offenses. On the flip side, Mahomes should be able to torch the Raiders' defense. I have no question about it, especially at home. But Tyreek Hill, how healthy is he? Can you guys give me an update on that? Because that's a big thing. If Tyreek Hill is not there, that's a big thing. And I don't think he played in the first matchup either. But that game was a lot closer than a lot of people want to think. But if the Raiders are able to run the ball, if the Raiders are able to maintain possession, and you throw in the fact that the Kansas City Chiefs have allowed the most receptions to the tight end position, Darren Waller should have a big game. then the Raiders should have success in this game. The Raiders should keep this game close. I expect this game to be a high-scoring game because I don't think the Raiders will be able to maintain and contain Patrick Mahomes at all. And I do not think that the Chiefs will be able to contain the Raiders' offense. So I will take the Chiefs to win because they're at home. They have Patrick Mahomes, and I think their passing offense will outdo the Raiders' offense at the end of the day. But I think the Raiders will keep this within 2 scores. I have to think that because John Gruden, after that loss, is going to come back, coach harder, and the Raiders will play harder than they have all season. So that's going to be a great game. All right. Guys, I haven't done it all year long, and I feel like it's time. Derwin James is returning to the lineup. So, in honor of Derwin James returning to the lineup, Chargers! I'm taking the Chargers. They're minus 2.5 points. I'm going to take them to win this game. Reason number 1, Derwin James is back. Reason number 2, their defensive line should dominate one of the worst pass-blocking offensive lines in the league with Joey Bosa and Melvin Ingram going off. And I think Phillip Rivers has a bounce-back performance, although I will say the Broncos have a good pass defense, so it won't be easy for Rivers to throw the ball. But I think the Chargers will have some run offense success. I think Melvin Gordon and Austin Eckler have some success on the ground, and I just don't trust that Denver can move the ball well enough. So I'm going to say that the Chargers win this game, and the Chargers cover. Patriots at Texans. Sunday Night Football. The Patriots, we knew that they were going to go through a gauntlet. Started with the Ravens. Didn't look so good there. Got the bye week. Beat the Eagles. Beat the Cowboys. 2-1 so far in the gauntlet. They now head to Houston in a big AFC game. This is and it's not just because I'm a Patriots fan, okay? If I had to bet one game of this week, I would bet the Patriots -3. And let me break down the game for you, all right? Let's start off with this. Deshaun Watson has played the Patriots twice. He's 0-2. Second, Belichick has never lost to Bill O'Brien. He's 5-0. Last season, Deshaun Watson played the Patriots. Now, he did not have Will Fuller, but the Patriots defense was not as good as it is now. Not really even close. Last year, Deshaun Watson was 17 for 34, 176 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. In that game, he only threw for 5.2 yards per attempt and was sacked 3 times. DeAndre Hopkins had 8 catches for 78 yards on 11 targets. Not a great game. Gilmore covered him the entire game, and I expect that to be the same in this one. On the flip side, Tom Brady was 26 for 39, 277 yards, 3 touchdowns, and an interception. Now people are going to say, well, he had better weapons last year, and the Patriots were better, and Tom Brady was better, and the offense was better. He didn't have Edelman in that game. Dorsett was the leading receiver in that game. Okay? New England is the number 2 team in terms of DVOA. Houston is shockingly low. They're 18th. So that's 16 spot difference. New England's defense is number 1. Houston's is 26th. New England's offense is actually 10th, and Houston's is 15th. Houston's third down defense is 31st in the NFL. Patriots is first, allowing get this is insane, okay? Patriots defense on third down is the greatest in NFL history. Not only the greatest so far, but 7% better than the best of all time, the 2017 Vikings. Only allowing teams to convert 18% of the time. The Dallas Cowboys, who were number 1 in third down offense, only converted 1 third down versus the New England Patriots last week. New England is first in red zone defense, and Houston is 32nd. 32nd. The Texans have allowed 78 receptions to the running back position. It's the most in the NFL. The second most yards and the 4th most receiving touchdowns. James White and Rex Burkhead are going to feast in this game. Up front, New England is 4th in adjusted sack rate, 37 sacks defensively. Houston is 25th in pass protection, advantage New England. Houston is 26th in adjusted sack rate, 26th in pass rushing efficiency. New England is 4th in pass protection, getting Isaiah Wynn back last week. Houston is not good up front either in the pass game. So New England has that edge. The early down success for Houston is going to be their chance to be in the game. If Houston is able to run the ball, then they can keep it competitive. If not, the game will be a blowout. I guarantee you that. If Houston is not able to run the ball or move the ball on first and second down, if Houston is stuck in third down and long, New England will destroy them. Because, like I mentioned, New England is just allowing 18% on third down. But Houston is terrible at protecting their quarterback, Deshaun Watson. And if New England's able to send extra men or able to be creative on third down, Deshaun Watson does not fare very much of a chance, even at home. And you look at the receivers of Houston, and yes, Will Fuller is back, and he allows a lot more to be had and a lot better offense for Houston. They're just a lot better when Will Fuller's in there. But when you look at the secondary, any secondary that you would want to play against the Texans, is it not the Patriots? I mean, you just put Gilmore one-on-one with Hopkins, you double-team Will Fuller with whoever you want. I just don't see the Texans having major success offensively. And I think this could be the game that the Patriots break out offensively. They have had terrible weather conditions over the past 2 weeks on a mucky, wet, gross Eagles field versus a much better defense in Philadelphia. They just played in a monsoon that I attended versus the Dallas Cowboys. They have N'Keal Harry back. Jacoby Myers has grown. The Isaiah Wynn is back at left tackle. Sony Michel had one of his better games last week. No J.J. Watt. They don't have to deal with any premier pass rusher. Tom Brady should have time in the pocket. It's the worst team versus receiving running backs. Who's going to cover Edelman? I think this is the easiest bet of the week. If I'm wrong, I will be shocked, okay? The Patriots, I have them winning this game 31-17. This will be one of Tom Brady's best games of the season. He will throw 3 touchdowns, and the Patriots will win in decisive fashion because their defense, again, will dominate, and their offense will play one of its better games of the season. That's what I believe in this one. I have a strong feeling about this game. I think the Patriots come out and they have a statement performance. So there you go. Let me know in the comments what you think of that. All right. I'm waiting for Ultra's comment. Monday Night Football. Vikings at the Seahawks. Number one thing you need to know about this game, Clete Blakeman is the ref. Why do you need to know that? Well, Clete Blakeman is the master of the under. According to Adam Lefkoe and Warren Sharp, 10 games this season that have been ref by Clete Blakeman have all hit the under. Every single one. This is a trend. 10 games in a row Clete Blakeman has refed have hit the under. So if you are betting, hit the under on Vikings Seahawks. Not only that, but these two exact teams played last season. What was the score? 21-7 in Seattle. Seattle won 21-7. It was a slugfest. It was low scoring. I expect it to be very much the same because when I look at it, I look at a Vikings defense that's very fast, has a good pass rush, should be able to contain Russell Wilson within the pocket, good enough coverage in the back end where they won't be exposed, and they have fast, good, aggressive linebackers. I just think they have a good defense that can match up with the Seahawks offense. And on the flip side, you have a good run defense in Seattle that won't get gashed by Dalvin Cook. Jadeveon Clowney didn't even play last week, and they proved against the Eagles that they can get after the quarterback. This is in prime time, so Kirk Cousins usually poops himself in those matchups. Now, Adam Thielen might be back, which gives the Vikings a chance to win this game. But I am going to keep it simple here. I am taking the home team in the primetime spot, the team that continues to prove me wrong. I'm taking Seattle. And it's a little bit uncomfortably because if Adam Thielen's there, I think this game's very interesting because it opens everything up, and I don't quite trust Seattle secondary. But if they can slow down Dalvin Cook and everything in the Vikings offense works through Dalvin Cook and get after Kirk Cousins, then I'm confident that the 12th man can stand up, be loud in that situation, and Russell Wilson will make one or two more plays than Kirk Cousins. So I will take the Seahawks. I will also take the under in this game because Clete Blakeman is the GOAT. That's all I'm going to say. All right, those are my picks for week number 13. Let me know in the comments who you guys have. I'm going to read off some of your picks right now at the end of these, at the end here. All right. Let's go. What do we have? Okay. I don't remember the last time I read the comments. Okay, here we go. Mr. Singh says Pats will go 15-1. Busboy says the Steelers should be really good next year with a healthy team. The only question is, I don't know if Ben is going to be healthy enough. I don't know if he's motivated enough to come back from the injury. Rob says Eagles 24-20, so he has to be in a close one. Rob says, Fact or Fiction, Eagles fired Jim Schwartz. I don't know why. That's the best part of their team. Awesome Zone says, I have the Eagles winning the game, but Dolphins will keep it close. Atlanta fan says, do I start Wentz or nah? I would start Wentz. I mean, it depends who else you have, but I don't mind it. Sammy says Eagles 26-3. Sebastian says Dolphins 10-7. Kevin Durkant has 35-10 Packers. Sammy has Packers 31-22. Sebastian has Packers 21-10. Packers 41-10. All right, everybody's on the Packers. I get it. Sebastian has Browns 35-28. Steelers 17-14 for Rob. What else? Kevin Durkant has the Chiefs 38-10. Will the Cardinals cover? Ask Eric. Yes, if they're going to win, they're going to cover. Everyone was answering my question correctly. Wizard of Oz says, Mitch, what's your take on Brady leaving the Patriots? Surely this travesty could not happen. I hope not. And I don't think it will happen. I would give it a 94% chance of not happening. They do butt fumble very well. What was the top 5 biggest upsets? I don't know. I'd have to go through the whole thing. Rob's on the Broncos 14-10. Sammy has the Chargers 13-7. Chargers are going to win because Mitch did the thing. Atlanta fan says, honestly think the Pats wreck the Texans here. Rob has the Pats 20-17. Sebastian has the Patriots 35-28. Busboy has the Pats. Awesome Zone says, I have the Pats over Texans. Fact or Fiction, Pats draft Tua this offseason. I would say fiction. I don't think they'll be in a position to. Buzzboy says Will Fuller is a beast. I wish he was on the Steelers, he says. Atlanta fan says Tua and Haskins are nothing alike as players. Wizard says, I have the Pats beating Baltimore at home in the AFC Championship. Then we'll see it in the NFC team. Sammy has Patriots 23-16. Sammy says Niners suck, JK. Sammy has Seahawks 56-47. Busboy has Vikings 35-28. Sebastian has Seahawks 30-21. Okay, what else? Adam Thielen is back, says Kevin Durkant. Yes, I am doing decent in the fantasy league. Ultra says Kirk Cousins should be an MVP candidate. Atlanta fan, we'll see what he does on Monday night. Atlanta fan says, Mitch, do you trust Brady in fantasy? Him or Wentz? I would go Brady. But that's close. Augustine has Pats over Texans, 31-17. And Sebastian says the Gruden Grinders win over the Chiefs. All right, guys. That is it for Week 13 picks and preview. If you enjoyed, Gronk, spike the like button. Don't forget to hit the notification bell to be up to date with my latest uploads. And subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Thanks, guys, for watching. We'll see you tomorrow because I am streaming tomorrow. I am streaming the Buffalo Bills versus the Dallas Cowboys. So meet me then here on the channel. Have a great Thanksgiving. Peace out.